Texas men's basketball is on the brink of sink or swim while the Lady Longhorns are steamrolling competition. Baseball gears up for the season opener. And, oh yeah, a little thing called the Super Bowl happened this weekend. All of this and so much more coming up. This is College Crossfire.
What are those? Coming back to that 2021 MVP. He's better than Josh Allen. He's better than Baker Mayfield. He's not better than Mahomes. I can't say that.
Well, if it's a kick, you get kicked. So, bag of money or whatever, food inside of them. Okay. All right. We're gonna move on.
Good evening and happy Valentine's Day to all of our viewers tonight in studio and online. I'm your host, Tyler Moss, and we're going to have a great show for you tonight. But before meeting our contestants, I want to share with you that today's show is brought to you by Cap Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your ride to this weekend's game at capmetro.org.
I love Cap Metro!
All right, now let's go ahead and meet the players of tonight's contest. Introducing first, making his very first Crossfire appearance, we have Ryan Hopper. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Excited to be here.
Yeah, good to meet you, Ryan. We're happy to have you on tonight. And coming in second, our Halloween episode winner, looking for another holiday dub, Kendell Ungar. Kendell, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here, going against the reigning champ. So excited for that opportunity.
That's right. She kind of stole the introduction from me. But last and certainly not least, we have our Tournament of Champions victor, Tommy Yarrish. Tommy, how are we doing?
Doing good, man. I think Kendall's trying to get your job here. You got to stand up
she
for
might
yourself.
be trying to take the second backup host job tonight. But before we get started tonight, we're going to go over the rules of the game, just in case you've never tuned in before. There will be 3 rounds, with each round containing 3 questions, and points will be given to who I believe has the best answer in the order of 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point. Whoever has the most points at the end of the 3rd round wins and gets to come back for next week's show as well. But we can't forget that the 3rd and final round, or the rapid fire round, is worth double the points, and that means the best answer gets 6, and then 4, and then 2. New to the game, in case there is a tie score at the end of the final question, I do have a quick bonus question to see who is crowned the champion. Also in this rapid fire, the contestants have not been able to see or prepare for these questions whatsoever, meaning they will just have to adapt, improvise, and overcome, and just hopefully not get caught in the crossfire. Now that the game is explained, let's get to firing. The Kansas City Chiefs defeated the San Francisco 49ers to win back-to-back Super Bowls and their 3rd in the past 5 years. It was a slow start to the game, but it picked up pace and carried into overtime. And in your opinion, what was the most important play or sequence in determining the outcome? Ryan, we'll start with you.
Well, I think that 3rd and 4 was huge. Right there in overtime, 19-19, KC needed to stop. And Chris Jones came up huge. Yes, he was unblocked, and I understand that, but he went straight at Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy had, I believe it was Juwan Jennings, wide open, and he couldn't hit him. And that makes a difference when you're playing against arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. So I would say that was a huge loss for San Fran, because you just knew that Patrick Mahomes was going to come through on that last drive.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. That 3rd and 4, they got to him real quick. He just freaked out, threw that ball away, stopped him, and made him kick a field goal. Kendall, go ahead and we'll go with you.
I'm going to bring it back to the 4th quarter when the Chiefs blocked an extra point kick on the 49ers, making it only a 3-point game lead. And this turned out beneficial for the Chiefs in the long run, because in that last series they only needed to score a field goal instead of a touchdown. So they had that beneficial factor to that. And I just think that whole sequence of events in the 4th quarter, getting the ball for the last drive, a minute 53 to go, they really showed their dominance and were able to march down the field.
Yeah, absolutely. That blocked extra point ended up being, a huge thing in the end of the game. It led it to it being tied and ultimately sending it into overtime. All right, Tommy, what do you got?
I think, for me, the biggest sequence in this game, and those are 2 really good points, but I think Kyle Shanahan's decision to go on offense first in the overtime period ended up being very costly to them. And, you can argue that maybe the defense is tired. They were just out on the field for a really long drive. You want to give them some time to get some legs under them. But at the same time, they weren't getting anything going offensively either. An offense, in an overtime period at least, is probably what's going to win you a game if you're on that 2nd drive. So the defense has been the strong suit for San Francisco all season. I think they should have seen the field first. And sure, Patrick Mahomes was playing very well in the second half, and it's very obvious that he's one of, if not the best quarterbacks of all time. So not really a guy you want with a chance to win the game on the line, because he's done it time and time again, and he goes and does it again here. So I think that decision ended up biting Kyle Shanahan on the behind when he could have started out on defense first and tried to get a stop and set the game into his own hands.
Yeah, and then, obviously post-game it kind of came out that the 49ers were not prepared for a postseason overtime at all. So that was a huge decision. I'm going to go ahead and give Kendell the 3 points here. I think that blocked extra point, like I said, in the scheme of the game, if you don't have that, it's a lot harder for you to end up in those tie game scenarios where it's, 4 points. How do you get 4 points instead of just kicking a field goal to tie it up? Tommy, I'm going to go ahead and give you the 2. I think that them not knowing the overtime rules and ultimately taking the ball first, thinking of that, regular season overtime rules and how it used to be is also what ended up killing them in the end. And Ryan, I'm going to go ahead and give you the 1 here. Not that that was the least crucial part of the game. Obviously, that 3rd and 4 play was integral to how it ended up, but just not quite as solid as the other answers. Moving to the second question, Patrick Mahomes ended up winning the Super Bowl MVP to nobody's surprise, but that doesn't mean that he was the only player with an important role in this game. Aside from Mahomes, what player do you think had the biggest impact? And Kendell, we'll start with you here.
I'm going to go to the defensive side of the Chiefs. I'm going to go with Nick Bolton. Defense had a critical role in this game. I feel like the Chiefs' defense was dominant throughout the entire game. High-pressure situation going to overtime, almost the highest you can get in the professional sports world. He led the team in tackles. He had 5 solo. He had 2 quarterback hits. So I just really think he had a dominant performance and was almost the quarterback of the defense.
Yeah, Nick Bolton's been locking it down for them all year on defense and definitely did that more in the Super Bowl. Tommy, we'll go ahead and go with you next.
I'm going to go stick with the Chiefs defense as well here and go with Chris Jones. I mean, the entire game plan for Kansas City defensively going into this game was to make Brock Purdy throw the ball and preferably throw the ball deeper down the field over 5 yards. And the way to make him do that is to get pressure on him and get him rattled, get him outside of the pocket to where he's forced into those longer throws and has to avoid the check down, and not get the ball out of his hands very quickly. Chris Jones in the middle of that Chiefs defensive line, like he has all season long for Kansas City, was very disruptive in the backfield, forcing Purdy into some of those incompletions, and he came up big down the stretch too. We mentioned that 3rd and 4 in the previous question. He's been fantastic all season, had another great game for the Chiefs defensively in this one. I think he's the unspoken hero of this game for the Chiefs.
Yeah, Chris Jones, great leader on that defense. Obviously, we saw a bit of his impact early in the season when he was sitting out due to contract issues, but yeah, he definitely showed up big in the Super Bowl for them as well. And Ryan, we'll wrap it up with you.
Well, so he kind of took my answer with Chris Jones.
It happens. First time on the show, it happens.
So I understand. So I will go with Trent McDuffie. I think he's been a lockdown corner all season. If you remember, this is a testament to the Chiefs GM. They got the pick that they used to get on Trent McDuffie from the Tyreek Hill trade that was very widely criticized at the time. He was locking people down. He was locking down Deebo Samuel. He was locking down Brandon Ayuk. These are some of the best weapons in the NFL. And at the end of the day, you need cover corners in a passing league, just like you need pass rushers like Chris Jones. And he was a monster out there, but I think overall you have to give it to Snead McDuffie just because defensive back arguably is a much more important position than defensive tackle. And I didn't think there was many big plays that Purdy can make at all. Purdy can evade pressure. He's a very good scrambler. He can get away from these blitzers. It's hard for any receiver to get away from Trent McDuffie.
Yeah, that's a good point, kind of how they work in tandem with the defensive line there. Obviously pressure and coverage work hand in hand. I'm going to go ahead and give Tommy the 3 points on this one. I think Chris Jones was an absolute game wrecker for the Chiefs. But Ryan, I'm going to give you the 2, coming up with another answer. And I think Trent McDuffie and the rest of the secondary is a very great pick. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the 1 on this one. Still a very tight race, though. We'll go ahead and wrap up Block A with this question. So it's time for What Happened to Vegas and Stay in Vegas. And Super Bowl 59 will be played in St. Louis next season. What is your extremely early Super Bowl 59 matchup? Keep in mind we're 3 days back from the Super Bowl, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. And Tommy, we'll start with you.
Well, I think first of all, if you look at the AFC, it's going to be really hard to not pick the Chiefs again. I mean, if you take a look at the roster that Kansas City had this season, especially in the receiving room for Patrick Mahomes, by far the worst he's had at the wide receiver position. Obviously, Travis Kelce's an anomaly, and that's not going to change as long as he's in the room. But that offensive roster had no business being in the Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes leads that team to be there. I can't bet against the man at this point. So I think for the AFC, Kansas City gets there. And I think the NFC, we see a really good year from Philadelphia. I really like this roster. I think if you tap it, I know the Cowboys fans in the room all just shook their heads in one cohesive move. But if you look at their roster from top to bottom, I think offensively they've got some really good weapons. And A.J. Brown, I think Jalen Hurts kind of stepped back this year. And usually when you see that, he takes a bigger step forward. Quarterbacks do in that after contract year where they maybe take a step back, realize oh, they're paying me $500 million to do this. I need to play a little bit better.
Yeah.
Comes out and play better. A.J. Brown's been fantastic for them offensively, and then defensively, they've got basically the entire Georgia defense on their roster, and that turned out to be pretty good at the college level, and so far so good at the NFL level too. So I'm taking Chiefs-Eagles in a Super Bowl rematch.
Oh, okay. I like it. I think, yeah, like you mentioned, the Chiefs, it was like early in that season you thought there was no way they could do this again. Then I do like the idea of the Eagles kind of bouncing back, as much as I hate it at the same time as a Cowboys fan. But I do like that matchup there. Ryan, we'll go with you.
Well, so for the reasons he just said, I would say definitely the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be back. Chris Jones today said he's coming back. That was a question as he was a contract holdout earlier in the year. They have a great defense. Honestly, this year, historically good defense. And then you have Patrick Mahomes, who could be the GOAT. So I think the Chiefs are the team in the AFC to beat. I think they'll be back. I have a little bit of a wild card in the NFC. I'm going to go with the Packers because they succeeded as the youngest team in the league this year. I think Jordan Love's a superstar. And look, you got to look at the rest of the NFC. In the AFC, I don't think the Packers have a chance. I'll be frank. However, in the NFC, the Eagles fell apart at the seams this year. When have you seen a team fall apart in the way that the Eagles did this year? I think Sirianni is kind of a clown. I think he's a goofball. And no, I really do. And I think a lot of that goes into him. He scapegoats his two coordinators, fires them both. Now he's two new coordinators. He has adapted that. Sorry, Cowboys fans. The Dallas Cowboys are the Dallas Cowboys. They will not be back to the Super Bowl. They have not been since the 90s. There's too much pressure on those players, and there's too much pressure on Dak Prescott. Then you look at the Niners. I think the Niners are going to be scarred by this loss. I think this could be a Falcons-level loss in that it is going to scar them and is going to impact them moving forward. Seahawks, I don't think they have enough. Who else? The Rams, they're getting old. Donald's getting old. Staff's getting
Bears.
old. The Bears, they're rebuilding. My Commanders are rebuilding. I believe it's going to be the Packers. I think Love is a superstar. They have the youngest team in the league. Really up-and-coming defense. A lot of intriguing weapons. I think they're going to get better and better, and they have a top-5 coach in the league.
Yeah, well, the Packers were not on my radar for there, but you sort of built a case for them, and I know Tommy made all the Cowboys fans, and then you added on to that, but also made Tommy mad at the same time, so something to consider.
That should
there.
warrant negative points for the Packers.
I don't know. We got two Cowboys strays
my
already, so I don't want to be handing out negative points, but Kendall, let's see what you got.
I disagree on your point about the 49ers. I think they're going to take this as a learning curve. Brock Purdy's a 24-year-old quarterback. His nickname was Mr. Irrelevant. Look how far he's come this season. He almost beat one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league right now. It was a last-minute play that really took home the win. So I just think the 49ers will come back better than ever. They really have the strength of the team, strong roster, so I think they'll definitely make an appearance in the next Super Bowl. And then I'm going to go with the Ravens. So not the Chiefs. I think everyone's kind of sick of them being in the Super Bowl. Hate to say it, but I think Lamar Jackson, not his best game in the championship game. They got unlucky in the red zone with 2 turnovers. They had interceptions, all of that. So I just really think the Ravens are a strong offensive team in the regular season. The playoffs just weren't their best play. So I just really think Ravens 49ers are a good call.
All right, some interesting takes here. I'm going to go ahead and actually give you the 3 for that one, Kendall. I really like the Ravens. Obviously they kind of just disappeared in that AFC Championship game. But I do think that the Niners, are unfortunately a force to be reckoned with for the next couple years. I'm going to go ahead and give Ryan the 2 here. I think that, the Packers really did show themselves in the playoffs, even with their immaturity. And if you kind of come back from that and come back in the second year, get Jordan Love a little bit more settled, I think they'll be back, and obviously the Chiefs to consider as well. And then, Tommy, I'm going to give you the 1. It's not that I don't think Philadelphia can be there. I just don't think that right now they're one of my top teams to end up in there. But, still a close game all around. And that'll wrap things up for tonight's first round. Don't go anywhere. College Crossfire will be right back.
as well.
Welcome back into College Crossfire. Right now we've got a close game. We've got Kendell leading the way with 7 points, Tommy right behind with 6, and Ryan right behind with 5. So just a little bit of a spread there. It's still very close with 2 blocks to go. And we've talked about pretty much everything we've needed to about the Super Bowl. So we're going to shift gears into sports happening here on the 40 acres. Texas men's basketball is currently sitting at 9th in the extremely competitive Big 12 race. They travel to Houston this weekend, who sits atop the conference, and scraped out an overtime win here in the Moody Center. What is the key for Texas in this matchup this time around, and what is your score prediction? Right now, we'll start with Tommy.
Well, I think when you look at the first matchup against Houston, in the first half, Texas came out really, really soft. And you can't come out soft against a team like Houston when they're one of the most physical teams, not just in the Big 12, but in the entire country. They beat you with their physicality. They have a long history, Kelvin Sampson does, of strong interior play, especially from their forwards. And we saw that from guys like Joseph Tugler in that game. And you pair that with an elite guard like Jamal Shead, and it's going to get ugly like it did in that first half. But you credit Rodney Terry and his team for their resiliency in the second half. What changed? They played a lot more physical. They went for some more rebounds and rebounded better, I would say, across the board. And they finally found a way to stop Jamal Shead. There's your 3 keys for this game in Houston. I think it's going to be a very tough road challenge. And ultimately, I think Houston gets another win over the Longhorns just because at home they've been fantastic. This is a really, really tough team that's just hard to beat at any point in the season. I love Kelvin Sampson's squad, so I'm taking Houston to win this one 68-56.
Oh, I like the pick there. Physicality has been one of my biggest gripes with this Texas team all season. Obviously, Houston, one of the better physical teams in the nation. So, yeah, that's something that you definitely got to keep an eye on. Kendell?
Okay, I agree that Texas needs to be very aggressive, and I hate to say it, but the Longhorns need to play a near perfect game of basketball if they want a chance against Houston. You know, they've had a couple tough breaks, losses going on, but I really think confidence is another key booster. I think if they go into it knowing, hey, we almost beat this team, it was an overtime loss, we can play with this team if we play aggressive, if we make our shots, all of that, I think that's another key point of that. I do think the road's going to be a challenge. You know, Houston's undefeated on their home court this season, so I think that'll be a tough Texas game, but if they come in confident and do everything right, have the aggression, all of that, they'll have some success. I do think Houston will come out with the win. You know, they're a dominant team. They have the performance, so I'm going to go 70-75 Houston.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Houston, very good. That's a tough arena to play in down in Houston, and obviously still undefeated at home this season. And Ryan, we'll wrap it up with you.
Well, I hope the Longhorns have confidence going into this game. They will need it. They are going into a buzzsaw against Houston. This is the top-rated defensive team in the nation at home. Like you said, Kelvin Sampson is a great coach. I think this is a true national title contender. Keys for Texas are the keys when you're the inferior team in any basketball game. You're going to have to make shots, especially threes, and you're going to have to lock down on defense. Shots, I feel like, has been inconsistent for Texas this year. Asmus, inconsistent. A lot of the main contributors have been inconsistent. Where I think Texas could keep this close is if they lock in on the defensive end. Kendall Weaver is going to be key in this game. He is the best perimeter defender on the team. He's probably one of the best perimeter defenders in the conference, and he's just a very good player on the defensive end. I understand he's offensively limited, but you're going to need him to play upwards of 30 minutes in this game and play well if Texas has a chance. Personally, I don't think they have much of a chance. You never know in college basketball, but I'm going to take the Cougars 73-58, and Texas is going to be really sweating it on the bubble this year.
Oh, I like that. I really like, Kendall Weaver, bringing up Kendall Weaver. One of the few bright spots for Texas this year, really shining. Started on the bench, has been finding his way into the starting rotation, and he's been a big factor for them. I'm going to go ahead and give you the 3 there, Ryan, for that answer. I like, shooting shots has been something that Texas has struggled with, obviously, in that game against Iowa State at home. They didn't make a 3 forever until Dessou was finally the first one to make a 3, I think. But then the week after that, he went 5 for 5 in the first half. So you never know who's going to be hot and who's not. Tommy, I'm going to go ahead and give you the 2 for this question. I like the 3 keys that you brought up. Physicality, again, has been the storyline to watch. Texas's bigs have not been physical down in the paint, really, at all. And then, Kendall, I'm going to go ahead and give you the 1 for this question. And then we'll go ahead and move into question number 2 for this block, which is the Longhorns women team, currently 3rd in the conference, but ranked 5th in the nation. With a record of 22-3, they're looking to be a top seed and host in the round of 64 and 32. My question is, how big of a splash will they make in this year's NCAA tournament? Kendall, we'll start with you.
So I think the way they've turned their season around has really shown the adversity they're able to go against. You know, they had injuries, they had tough breaks, all of that going on. But I think their defense has especially stepped up and really, especially on the rebound side, you know, you have Aaliyah Moore leading in rebounds, all of that going on. I think I keep going back to the Kansas State win. That was a dominant performance the entire time. You know, Kansas State beat them earlier in the season, then to come back and beat them at Moody Center, that was huge. So I think going into the tournament, if they just continue to play aggressively, offensively and defensively, they're in a really good spot.
Yeah, I like that. I like the name. Aaliyah Moore has been big for them so far this year. And, yeah, I think just overall, it just, you know, it's college basketball. You don't really know what will happen. Ryan, what do you got?
Well, I don't know what will happen in March, because if anybody tells you they know what's going to happen in March, they're lying. I would say the cap for this team is probably the Sweet 16. I mean, when you look at it, losing Roy Harmon was just an awful loss. I mean, she was one of the best players in the country, points, rebounds, and assists. She fills up the stat sheet. And I think a key is going to be on the defensive end. I mean, you're going to have to stay in these games with one of your two leading scorers out for the season. And I think many Longhorns fans hope they can do that. And I believe they will definitely get out of the first two rounds, because they'll have those likely at Moody Center. But past that, I'm just not sure. I don't think they'll meet the fate that they did last year against Louisville, where they were blown out. But I think there's a hard ceiling for this team, unfortunately.
All right, so Sweet 16 exit is what you're saying. You know, with shooting being an issue, I can definitely, you know, see that happening. Tommy, let's wrap it up with you.
Well, I'll just say this about basketball in general, whether it's men's or women's. When you lose your alpha, like Texas did in Rory Harmon, your season can go one of two ways. It can go just complete tank and just over already 2 games afterwards, right? Or you can find a way to figure something out. And Texas has figured something out, and her name is Madison Booker. When I talked to Vic Schaefer at the start of the season, he had mentioned how going into this year he wanted to find someone who could alleviate some of Rory Harmon's abilities and responsibilities on the court. Madison Booker has been all that and more. She came into Texas as a McDonald's All-American. The question would just be, how much of an impact would she have in her freshman season? She's arguably the best player on the team right now in her freshman season, averaging right around 20 points a game, I believe, and has completely taken this team under her wing as a freshman to make them a top 10 team in the country. So I kind of disagree in thinking that this team has a very hard ceiling. I think I agree in the sense that you don't know what you're going to get every night, but this is a team that is very capable of making it, I would say, the Elite Eight, honestly. I think that you know, defensively, they still have a lot of dogs around the floor that can play really well. Obviously, you lost your best defender in Harmon, but they have still stepped up to the occasion. They played really well defensively, I thought, against Baylor, and then offensively, Booker has been scoring at will. So you've got your new alpha dog there in Madison Booker. I think she's going to be a big catalyst for this team, and I think they make it to at least the Sweet 16, I think as deep as the Elite Eight.
Yeah, Tommy, I really like your answer there. I'm going to go ahead and give you the 3 points for this one. I think them overcoming that loss of Rory Harmon with, you know, players like Madison Booker really stepping up have been a huge part of their success. Like you said, you really either sink or swim in this kind of scenario, and they have their 3 losses this deep into the season. They're leading the conference. They're shaping up to be a 2 seed. I think they're definitely going to make it past the round of 16. So, Ryan, I'm going to give you the 1 for this one, because I think a hard cap at the Sweet 16 is kind of, you know, taken away from this team. You know, it's March. Again, you never know what could happen. They may not escape the round of 64. But I think saying that their limit is the Sweet 16 is just not, you know, it just doesn't really sit well with how I see this team. And that's going to leave you in the middle here, Kendall, with the 2. Now, for the third question in this round, we're going to move over to the baseball diamond, where Texas is ranked 16 in the preseason. After a heartbreaking end to last season, they're looking to come back and find themselves playing in Omaha come the summertime. If they want to be competing for a College World Series, what is the key for this team to succeed? Ryan, we're going to start with you.
Well, I think the key, one of the main keys, is going to be replacing the bats that they lost. They lost Kiwamate, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I'm sorry if that's wrong. They lost Dylan Campbell, and they lost one other outfield bat. It's going to be key to replace that. Where does those replacements come from? It comes from the younger guys, namely Will Gasparino. This is a guy that was a top 100 draft prospect, and he has raw power. Coming out of California, people are very excited about his power, and I think that could be huge when you're replacing some of your leading home run totals from last season. In addition, Tanner Witt did not completely have his stuff coming off of Tommy John surgery, and as you know, with any baseball team, pitching is absolutely key. So if Tanner Witt and LeBaron James can form one of the better 1-2 punches in the country, I think Texas could go a long way, and I think Texas could definitely go to Omaha. they were a fly ball away potentially from going last year in a rebuilding year, quote unquote. So I think Texas has a very good chance.
Yeah, I really like mentioning Tanner Witt coming off that Tommy John surgery last year. If he can, keep bouncing back and come back stronger from that injury, it's going to make a huge shift in the pitching game. And then, replacing some of those hitters that they lost is going to be key. Tommy, what do you got?
I'm going to kind of steal a little bit of his answer and say pitching. I think the biggest offseason move for Texas this year was David Pierce announcing that he is going to take over the duties as pitching coach because, frankly, that's been the struggle with his teams at times. And so he's stepping into that role and saying, okay, I'm claiming responsibility for the weakness of that in the past, but he's also stepping away from the CEO role as kind of head coach and taking a little bit more responsibility under his wing. The good news for him is he's got two really solid guys to work with in Tanner Witt, assuming that he can get back to where he was before his surgery, and LeBaron Johnson, who was inconsistent at times last season, but when he was good, he was playing really well. I think Duplantier as well is going to be an X factor for this pitching staff because, frankly, that pitching staff was, I think, what was holding them back last season. So if they can right the ship when it comes to their pitching staff, I think this can be a very good team and a team that is more than capable of going to Omaha.
Yeah, pitching, one of the things in college baseball is kind of like that can make or break a team, whether you've got a good pitching staff or not. And I think with David Pierce kind of getting his hands dirty and getting in there and working with these guys is going to make a huge difference for them all around. Kendall?
Yeah, I also had the pitchers living up to their potential, being a key part of the success to the Longhorns baseball team. It was a tough loss. They lost a couple guys to the draft, but they do have a pretty stacked roster still. I think one of the keys, though, that they didn't talk about is just the freshmen coming in. They have a really strong recruiting class, and I think if they incorporate those guys in quickly in the gaps they need, that they can be a really strong team and make it to Omaha.
Yeah, I like that answer there. Especially, baseball is one of those things where you can have freshmen kind of plug and play instantly as opposed to some of the sports like basketball and football. I'm going to go ahead and give Ryan the 3 points here. I kind of liked how he hit on both the pitching and the hitting issues that the team may face coming into this year. Tommy, I'm going to give you the 2. I like that you mentioned Coach Pierce's role, in the grand scheme of things, kind of, getting down with those guys in his bullpen and getting to it. And Kendall, I'm going to give you the 1. I do like that you mentioned the freshmen again because make a huge difference if you see some guys get in slumps. If you've got younger players you can plug right in, it's going to make a huge difference. We're going to get the scores for you guys when you come back, and when we come back, we will be having rapid fire, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back into College Crossfire. We've got a very tight game right now. Ryan is leading the way with 12. Kendall and Tommy both tied at 11. Very tight game, but it is still anyone's contest, clearly, as we enter the final round of tonight's show worth double the points. My advice to you all is do not get caught in the crossfire. Let's get into it. We talked about almost everything regarding the Super Bowl except for a couple of things. Usher performed at this year's halftime show along with a multitude of guests. And if you had to choose, who would be your dream Super Bowl halftime show? Remember, anybody can answer at any time.
Oh, my God.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to go with Justin Bieber. I know he was supposed to. Everyone thought he was coming for Usher's performance. He was there. He was with Haley. But I love Justin Bieber. I'm sorry. why wasn't he there? Why didn't he sing with Usher? Usher pretty much had like everyone else. So I definitely would call up Justin and say, come to the Super Bowl for the halftime.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like the Justin Bieber pick. What do you got, Tommy?
All right. This should have happened a long time ago. I say it's time to bring back Young Money. Give me Drake, Nicki Minaj, and Lil Wayne at the halftime show. That would be easily, by a large margin, the most watched halftime show of all time. That would be a fantastic reunion. Arguably 2 of the greatest rappers of all time. No, 3 of the greatest rappers of all time. Sorry, Nicki, but all on the same stage at the same time. No, I can't take that back. I clarified. See, the crowd's just hating me.
Yeah.
All 3 of those guys on the same time at the stage on the same time, just like the olden days, would be phenomenal.
That would be electric. What do you got, Ryan?
Well, I would say, first of all, one of the best halftime shows we've ever had was the Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre show back in L.A. But for a potential show, I feel like the country needs something to bring them together. And you know what I think would bring this country together? Bruce Springsteen singing Born in the USA in a Super Bowl halftime show among his many hits because, it could have worked in an election year. Bring everybody together, and it's not the most relevant pick for like our generation. I completely understand that, but I think it would bring in both some young and many old, and nobody could really have that many complaints. You bring out a lot of older guys, and then nobody has any complaints, and people can say, even in rural America, that's a Super Bowl halftime show I can be proud of and not complain about on Twitter.
As soon as you said Bruce Springsteen, I could hear like the snare drums to the opening of that song playing in my head. I will not be announcing who wins what until the end of the show, so I have assigned the points, but you guys will not know until later. So, now the second question. If you've been watching the NFL to any extent this year, you would be well aware that Taylor Swift was in attendance at the Super Bowl. But this time it wasn't just her. She brought along friends like Ice Spice and Blake Lively, which led to some funny moments, like when Ice Spice met Jason Kelsey. If you had to assemble a crew of celebrities to go to a game with, who would you bring with you?
Whew. How many is in a group?
Yeah.
How many do we have to choose
Let's say
from?
2 to 3.
Okay.
2 to 3. Okay. I'll start off here. So if I'm watching the Super Bowl, I want to watch it with people who know ball and at the same time are just fun, good-natured, funny guys to hang around, right? So give me LeBron James, give me Shannon Sharp, and give me Mina Kimes. There's your
That's
3.
quite the booth.
That's
That is
the
quite the
perfect.
booth.
That's the perfect mixture of knowing ball, funny dudes, and my idol in LeBron James.
Yep, that is quite the booth. I can't really argue with any of that. Go ahead, yeah.
All right, well, in a similar vein, I need people who know ball, but also I want to laugh and have a good time. And so I would say I'll steal one. I'm definitely taking Unk. I'm definitely taking Shannon Sharp. I'm taking his podcast mate, Chad Ochocinco. He's a very funny guy. And you know what? I'm not sure how well of a mix it would be, but I think I'm going to take Stephen A. too. It's going to be a loud booth. It's going to be a loud booth. There's going to be a lot of opinions, but I think we'd have a great time. And who knows who else would walk in with how connected those 3 are. They could bring in so many others.
Man, you wouldn't even be able to hear the game in that booth.
I like that you guys are mentioning you want to watch with ball knowers. I'm assuming you had some experience watching with non-ball knowers. Sometimes it's not that fun. It's not that fun. All right, Kendall, what do you got?
So I'm going to go with someone that's loud enough to be like 3 people. So I'm going to go with Gronkowski. I'm a longtime Patriots
Just
fan.
one? You're going
I'm gonna
just
go with one. I
Gronk.
think he could fill the space quite well. You saw him try to get on Nickelodeon. You tried to see him as a host, and he just wasn't really the reporter kind of type. I just think he's a loud guy, funny. He can make funny comments, and it would just be a really good time overall.
Gronk on TV has been really
Yeah.
funny.
I was gonna
I like the
say.
Fox desk
Yes.
when he's very clearly scripted his answers and like does not deviate from the teleprompter. Hilarious.
Yeah, I think the just
Looks like he
Gronk
would
pick
fill
is pretty good. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up with just one last question, and it's related to Valentine's Day. So it's only fair to bring up an important aspect of the holiday, which is chocolate. If you had to pick a singular chocolate to remove from the earth forever, nobody could ever have it again, what would it be and why? It can be like a type of chocolate, a brand, whatever chocolate-related item you want to remove.
White chocolate.
Oh, terrible take.
In my dining hall, actually, like an hour before this, they had chocolate and white chocolate strawberries. Guess which one no one touched? the white chocolate strawberries. I just do not think it's good. Too sweet. Dark chocolate, milk chocolate, way to go every time.
Ooh. Am I allowed to give 0 points on this? Can somebody ask
Yes,
back?
yes. You can give the 2 extra.
Whoever wants to go, you guys can work it out.
All
Who
right,
wants
well,
to go?
I gave white chocolate a thought because I feel like chocolate is not supposed to be white. It's supposed to be
Oh,
brown.
brother.
It's supposed to be dark, and that's what tastes good. Like she said, that's the strawberries that we're eating. However, I would probably have to go with Ferrero Rocher. And here's why. Okay, they think they're no, they think they're so fancy. They got the golden
little gold
wrapper.
wrap, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Man, when I was little, if I took a Ferrero Rocher off the bowl, and it wasn't Christmas yet,
You thought you were the stuff.
no, it's not even that. My mom would be like, those are expensive. Like, it'd be like I took some gold off the thing. Like, no, it's not that good compared to like a cheaper chocolate, Hershey's, whatever. And I just think they wrapped it in gold and made it sound much better than it actually is. And I think it's chocolate with an ego.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just described a lot of our childhoods, a lot of people. Tommy, what do you got?
First of all, I just can't say how egregious these takes are
let's see what
to
you
my
got.
right.
This is
I mean, that is
crucial to the
terrible.
game.
That is terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. So, white chocolate, absolutely not. Not touching that with a 100-foot stick. Keep that in the world. It has every right to be there. Same with Ferrero Rocher. Shout out to my mom. That's her favorite chocolate. I'm saying any sort of infusion between chocolate and fruit. I am a believer that fruit has no place in desserts as a whole.
That may be worse than getting
You
rid
don't
of
like
Absolutely
the
not.
orange and chocolate?
Absolutely not.
Orange and chocolate.
There is that. I've never even heard of that. That's outlandish.
I'm going to have to reassign some points here. This
No, absolutely not. You're telling me that just plain old, nice Hershey's chocolate is better than, a strawberry dipped in chocolate? Absolutely not. So get rid of any sort of fruit chocolate mixture forever, and just give me normal chocolate with, peanut butter. Reese's, a Supreme brand, the best chocolate out there, right? That's acceptable.
Have you never had a chocolate fountain before? You get some strawberries, you get
Yeah,
some
that's what
different fruits in
marshmallows
there?
are for.
Oh, my gosh.
Amazing.
I'm going to let you guys debate this while I try to think of points.
I'm not-
I may need to call TJ
I just wanted to
help.
say, when I called out their points, we got some boos from the crowd here as well. So the people certainly think that white chocolate and Ferrero Rocher belong in a society. Hey, you don't need to talk now. I just said beforehand.
I'm really struggling here, guys. This is tough. I thought this question would be like a real quick gimme, but this has really changed my mind. Oh, man.
Just say almond.
That's what was at the top of my list was almond
Is that
joy
even chocolate?
and
Is there
Tootsie
I didn't
Rolls.
think of it.
I
Oh,
hate
Tootsie
Tootsie
Rolls are
Rolls.
bad.
I'm surprised nobody brought that up.
I thought
But,
that's
all right.
like a taffy, though. Is
I've
that
got
chocolate?
it's I would consider Tootsie Roll. I've got the points down though. We're gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
Let me do the math real quick. And I can't believe that the chocolate one was bad.
Yeah, Butterfingers kind of suck.
It
Those
just
are pretty bad too.
it started bad and then it got worse. I think. Okay,
I didn't
here we
even know
go.
Almond Joy had chocolate in it.
Yeah, I should have thought that.
I've never had one.
There's
Yeah.
enough of it for it to be a valid
I don't go near it.
I thought it was all coconut.
covered coconuts.
And is that what the one with the nuts on the top?
Yeah, it's chocolate covered coconut with an almond in the middle.
That's disgusting.
Oh, I should.
All
That
right.
sounds awful.
I have got all of the points added up, so we can table the great chocolate debate, until after. If we could get a quick drum roll, please. Your winner for the Valentine's Day show is Tommy Yarrish. He almost threw it away with the fruit take. I'm not going to lie, but he held on. Do we have time for FaceTime in the back? Oh, perfect. Tommy, take it away.
I'm standing by it. Come at me if you want. As usual, just want to thank my lovely family, my beautiful girlfriend, my equally beautiful roommate, Ezekiel. I promised I'd give him a shout-out on this. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Hope you and your loved ones enjoyed a nice day today. Thank you guys for being fantastic co-contestants with me. Congratulations to Tyler for doing a great job hosting tonight. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Again, thank you to everybody here in the studio, everybody tuning in, our lovely contestants tonight. We had great answers all around with some great competition. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. Thank you to everybody in the back, our executive producer, Justin Gooseman. And that is our Valentine's Day episode. So, with that, tune into our other shows this week. We have 1-0 on Friday, and then we have College Press Box on Monday. That'll do it for College Crossfire. I'm your host, Tyler Moss, and we'll see you next week.